Wow! It's Wulzy. Welcome back to another Geometry Dash video. A few days ago was a pretty special occasion. 2 new top 1 levels were verified. One of these levels was Thinking Space number 2, which is a CairoX level right here, verified by Zoink. The other one was Amethyst. Making sure I spell it right. Oh, this might take a while to find. I think it's this one by iMist right here. This was verified by wPopoff. Now, I believe these aren't like super 2.2 levels, and that's perfect for me because at one point in my creating career, I got 66 creator points. Most of those were in 2.1. So hopefully, I'm going to be able to turn my eyes to this Vibrant showcase of Amethyst by iMist, and the whole list of creators will be in the description, and I should be able to pick out some stuff. Now, the song is by Waterflame, which is usually copyrighted, so I'll probably put some other goofy music in over the top. But what we have here is a hyper-realistic style. Straight away, you can see there's plenty of crystals. Crystals used to be a thing in 1.9. People would make them from the 3D objects, but now there are plenty of other ways to make them with little sparkles, little particles and stuff. You can see little glow objects kind of floating up in the ceiling. It's interesting to see this style be fleshed out in an extreme demon. This is actually kind of crazy. Seems like it's kind of flow gameplay. We have this cool UFO pattern, we have a couple of dual splits, and then the gameplay is speeding up and slowing down. Lots of portals and orbs, and crazy looking timings. First off, I'm just gonna watch this entire thing all the way through. This looks crazy. This foreground, sorry, I am pausing. I'll stop doing that. But this foreground is super smooth over the top. Plenty of layers there to dissect. I want to go into the decoration after I just get like a general overview of the gameplay to see what we're working with here. It kind of reminds me of the Golden with the way that the structures are rising and everything. This looks super sick. I love the transitions between each part. It looks super difficult. The edges of the gameplay are quite difficult to discern because of the realistic style, which is pretty interesting. I'm not sure what the playing community will think of that, because I think the majority of people will want the edges to be super, like, really obvious, like the hitboxes and everything. This looks so tight. Holy crap. What am I looking at here? Hold on. I want to know what these what are these structures? These are all spikes, but they're very strangely shaped. Look at this. It looks so odd. For top 1 gameplay, seems like we're getting very close to these objects. Like, where are the hitboxes here? I'm very curious to know. But there's a lot of detail in this. It's actually a pretty good looking level. I'm a big fan. Okay, we got more similar stuff going through here. Ooh, that big rotating wheel is pretty interesting. I like that. And then we have a tiny little structure right there. Ooh, and it explodes right here. Love the change in the aesthetic here to get lots of bright edges on the spikes this time. Everything's shining. You see how it's all pulsing going through here. You have certain objects that get covered by the foreground, and then some that just fade off to emphasize other structures on screen, which is pretty cool because if you have a lot of bright colors, it's very difficult to decorate. That seems to be the ending right there. This is Amethyst. Post-Mist. Okay, well, there's a lot to dissect here. I just want to mention, you can see it in this end screen, this floaty, like, depth. You see how it's moving up and down, but in between you can see there are multiple layers, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it looks like there's a screen in between, which is making them less opaque, just by using this background color as a layer that kind of fades off. I'm gonna go back to the beginning, and I want to look, because I see lots of rock decorations. I see that the foreground style is pretty much kept the same all the way through. You have like a fuzzy front layer, which is kind of less commonly decorated here, with the rocks actually sticking out, because you don't want to block the rest of the detail. The further back it goes, the more rocks that you'll see. This is actually so sick. The colors here are super interesting. I might be wrong. It looks like we're using shades of green. I'm a little bit colorblind, but I like the light shafts that you can see in the background going through here. That's a really nice touch. It just feels so dense. Like, there's so much going on. Everything is rotating in the foreground, it looks like, with the big saws and everything. I like the difference in this part. We're using black edges, and then towards the mid part of the level, you see brighter edges and stuff, especially this part. I think this looks super sick. It's very climactic to have them go bright. But in the beginning, when it's a little bit more moody towards the beginning, it's darker. I was just taking a look at the level at a standstill at certain points. There is a lot of detail, and some of it seems a little bit messy to the eyes. But when it's actually all going through, you see there's a lot of pulses and stuff. I'd say the black detail is pretty cool. I like how the edges aren't always the same. But then you have other objects that have like different color outlines, and when you look at areas like these, it's very difficult to discern any specific detail other than the fact it's just very messy looking rocks, which is interesting. It gives a chaotic, cluttered vibe, which is pretty nice. But in the background, you see a lot of glow usage. You see some torches. I love the light shafts and everything, as I mentioned. There's a couple of particles here and there that you'll see. And yeah, then we have this section in the mini wave, which is very design oriented instead of the art style. You can see the foreground is completely blacked out this time. Blocking, oh dude, that's so tough. Blocking actual parts of the gameplay. This looks so tight and you can't see where you're going. This is so crazy to me. The spikes are very weird too when you look at them. Some of them are very centralized in the design, but some of them are shifted over to the left, which is a pretty cool choice. Seeing similar tropes of the design, you see this specific object was used in the spikes earlier, but it's kind of been recontextualized. It's fun having rosters of creators that use objects so differently. We have a pretty classic design style pulse from the center moving down. It seems like it takes a little while to fade in, which is a pretty cool choice. It fades in after a while. You see it's very colorful on this flash, and then it brings out this white outline, which looks super cool. There are a couple of static particles as well, just to match in that color. And I love that transition too. There's like a huge shift. I want to see how that's done. It looks like it's just a glow screen with a couple of glow objects that are just stretched out like that. Creates a pretty cool look going in. Maybe a blind transition, but you're going to practice this level a lot if you're going to play it. Let's just be honest. You've got the cavern vibe going on for this section, which is really strange. As a player, I'd say. But visually, it looks great. Moving from that style into this one, it's pretty seamless with the transition. I do enjoy looking at this, and we go through the black transition, which is pretty neat. I like how it's very cleverly done, so you can still see this section, you can still see this section, but there's just one part in the middle that just helps make that transition seamless. It's a big style switch here going through. Going more with the realistic style again. You can barely tell how some of these spikes are formed, but overall, I think this decoration is pretty great. I do like the blurry foreground here. Lots of saw blades there. I'm usually against a lot of saw blade spam, but for levels like these, it does make it look very intense. I just noticed the particle difference here, how you got tiny little objects just floating in front of the screen. And it matches pretty well with that transition that uses this song, like the big slam right there that throws up some rocks. I really like that. And yeah, you see some more tiny little particles just making this feel a little bit more intense. This one isn't as background heavy as some of the previous parts, like going back to this beginning ship. There's a lot more to look at there. But I do think this part goes with a more gloomy approach, which is done pretty well with the blurry foreground and everything. It makes it just feel very dark and dim. But I love the different crystal styles going through the level. It's fun to see how creators kind of go into their flow state. Like the first creator was obviously going for more of a rock-based approach with the crystals sticking out, but then you see that this creator is going more with the crystals are on the front of the screen, you know? There are less rocks to look at. He's going more with grass. Oh, the tumbling rocks there is a pretty cool transition. It completely mirrors the transition that goes in here. I really like that, to be honest. And yeah, this creator's gone more with the rock-based approach, I'd say. And the background is phased out. I think it's cool how you can see into the back of the cave a little bit with that big crystal. And then as it goes into this section, it's more into a cavern style, I'd say. That giant teleporter looks a little bit funny, I'm not gonna lie, just sitting there. Kind of takes me out of the immersion a little bit, but it's hard to make those work sometimes. They don't scale very easily. And we're going back into the rock-based style, but I really like how the crystals are more colorful here. Like more of the rocks are actually using the color of the crystal, and you end up having, I believe it's like pink, like a reddish pink and a purple. You end up having very specific colors for these rocks, and I love these. They look like saws, I think. They really add a lot. It's crazy how good people are at creating textures nowadays. It's so hard to do. But look at the way the foreground's done. It's so blurry, but you do get a very vivid imagination of these rocks. And this looks so sick. Just like the tiny little spiky sections. It's very well done in this section, I think. Overall, it's an interesting choice to have this tone of gray so present in this part. It feels almost like it's weirdly lit. You kind of see it in the beginning too. There's like a very strange lighting presence compared to some of the gloomier sections of the level that are a lot more deliberate. They're more in darkness and they use the glow of the level to light them up. Like this part's also going for the gloomy aesthetic, but then you move into the gray cave coming up, which is pretty interesting to see, I think. It's just cool. I like mega collabs like this because it showcases so many different design styles. I have no idea how this plays, by the way. I think it could be a nightmare, if I'm being completely honest. Like, where does this hitbox end, you know? I do like this section. It's a pretty simple transition to just turn the player into a glow ball and kind of fling it around the screen. You have the white flash, and then you have this huge burst of energy. I want to watch this because I think this ship section has a lot of tension, and then it's completely unleashed in this wave, which is insane. Looking at the slide mechanics that are instantly done right there. Oh, dude, this is completely brutal. I'd imagine a lot of players are looking at this and being like, why did this level have to be so hard and so completely cruel? Because some of the decoration is really unforgiving. Like, parts of the gameplay are just completely covered up. And when you look at it on a standstill, it's hard to make out anything. But because all of the objects are moving here towards the center of the screen, it does bring the level together pretty effectively. But man, I'm actually quite amazed by how this level came out, because it's not the smoothest thing in the world, I'll admit. It jumps around from style to style, but somehow it works and it's memorable. I'm actually a decent fan of this. Oh, that's a cool ending. I didn't even see this end screen. Oops, my bad. Shout out to Viper for this showcase. I'm pretty sure the creators pitched it to him, but yeah, that's my thoughts on Amethyst by iMist. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for the Thinking Space 2 thoughts on video. Check the links in the description, leave a like, subscribe, and have a good day.